Today we are looking at a mono green ramp deck with some beast tribal synergies. So essentially we're playing a ton of ramp, and then we're just ramping into major threats, and all of our threats are beasts. And then we have this card, Wirewood Savage, to take advantage of all the beasts we play. So Wirewood Savage, it's 3 mana for a 2/2 elf, 2 generic, 1 green. It says whenever a beast enters the battlefield, you may draw a card. Okay, so let's start off by taking a look at our mana. So we're running 18 basic forests. Then we have the Arbor Elf package with Utopia Sprawl. So Arbor Elf, 1 green for a 1/1 with tap, untap target forest. And then Utopia Sprawl is a 1 green mana aura, which can enchant a forest. It says, as Utopia Sprawl enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever the enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. Then for some more ramp, we are playing Wild Growth, which is very similar to Utopia Sprawl. It's 1 green for an aura, enchant land. Whenever enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 green. Then for more ramp, we have Arboreal Grazer. It's also a beast. We only have 2 copies of it. It's 1 green for a 0/3 with reach. When Arboreal Grazer enters the battlefield, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. Then finally, in terms of our mana, we have 2 copies of Elvish Mystic, 1 green for a 1/1, tap add 1 green. We have 2 copies of Burning Tree Emissary. It's not necessarily the best fit in this deck, but it is quite nice and explosive. So it's 2 mana for a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, add 1 red or 1 green. Then for some card draw, we are playing this card from Modern Horizons. It's the Sorcery Winding Way. It's 2 mana, 1 generic, 1 green. It says choose creature or land. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all cards of the chosen type into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. So I've been very impressed with this card. It's not uncommon that you draw 2 or 3 or even 4 cards off this. Then also it fills up your graveyard, which is very nice. And in particular, it's good at putting lands in your graveyard. And as you'll see in this deck, we have some synergy around having lands in your graveyard. Okay, now finally, let's look at our beast threats that we ramp into. So first up, it's Blastoderm. It's 4 mana for a 5/5, 2 generic, 2 green. So it has Shroud and Fading 3. So Fading 3 says that Blastoderm enters the battlefield with 3 fade counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a fade counter. If you can't, sacrifice it. So this does only stay on the battlefield for a few turns, but it's 4 mana for a 5/5 with Shroud, which is pretty powerful. Okay, then we also have Excavating Anurid. It's 5 mana for a 4/4 beast, 4 generic, 1 green. It says when Excavating Anurid enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice a land. If you do, draw a card. So this is kind of similar to Owlbear in the sense that it's a 5 mana threat that can draw you cards. And also it's another way of putting lands into your graveyard. Then Excavating Anurid also has Threshold. So it says as long as you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, Excavating Anurid gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance. So all of the effects that help us put lands in our graveyard have synergy with this. Murasa Behemoth, it's another beast, 6 mana for a 5/5 with trample, 4 generic, 2 green. But it says Murasa Behemoth gets +3/+3 as long as there is a land in your graveyard. So with all our effects that put lands in our graveyards, hopefully this is 6 mana for an 8/8 with trample, which is pretty powerful. And then finally, it is Thundering Pteranodon. It's 6 mana for a 5/4 trample, also a beast. So its mana cost is 4 generic and 2 Phyrexian green. So 1 Phyrexian green can be paid with either 1 green mana or 2 life. So if you're willing to pay the 4 life, this is 4 mana for a 5/4 trample, which is very aggressive. Alright, so that is the current version of the deck. Definitely needs more work, but it has some powerful plays. So I'd say this is somewhere between jank and decent, because I have won some games with it in testing, but I do feel that some cards need to be tweaked around for this to really shine. Definitely do some brewing with it, and if you can think of ideas to make it stronger, please let me know. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.